Welcome again. Let me start off by giving you some background about me and why I developed the Connection series. But before I do, I want to take a moment to recognize that while I am the instructor of this course, I'm not your true teacher, leader, or source. God is. Matthew 23:10 through 11 says, "Don't let anyone call you teacher, for you only have one teacher. The greatest among you must be a servant." That's me, course instructor, servant of God. My goal is to allow God to work through me, reflect His heart and His will, and inspire you to seek Him first in everything you do. Okay, moving on to a bit about my background. I've trained in natural medicine and Western health and exercise sciences. I have experience with energy medicine that uses specific gentle movement exercises and meditative and mindfulness techniques to help achieve emotional balance and treat and prevent the symptoms of disease. I also have a degree in sports and health sciences with training in nutrition, injury prevention and treatment, and exercise development for a wide variety of needs, including injury rehabilitation. The blending of this natural medicine and Western health sciences has allowed me to work as a whole body wellness coach, offering people various wellness techniques targeted to meet their individual health needs on every level of their being. I've worked in the field of health and wellness since 2006, and I've had the pleasure and the honor of spending thousands of hours with hundreds of clients, helping them to achieve balance and health in their life and learning more about what healing means along the way. I'm also a certified Christian leadership coach with continuing education required each year to keep this certification current. Combining all this experience with natural medicine, exercise science, and Christian life and wellness coaching, I understood that the help my clients were looking for to the limitations and struggles they were facing couldn't be found by just dealing with the symptoms of imbalance, but by removing anything between them and the source of their breakthrough. It became apparent to me that healing was not a question of if it was possible, but a question of what. What is standing in your way? What barriers are in your own thinking, manner of speaking, actions, or belief structures that are standing in your way to receiving the healing that God has already given you? What do you need to clear, resolve, or just lay down in order to open the flow of God's blessings? I realized that the journey to healing required that any barriers in our own misperceptions and behavior are identified and cleared so that we can fully open to receiving our healing from God. And in some cases, the breakthrough we're looking for is eluding us because we're not slowing down or surrendering ourselves enough to listen to the direction we need from God. The question then becomes, what are we hiding from, running from, or holding on to that's keeping us in a pattern of self reliance or busyness? During my training, I also walked a parallel path of seeking spiritual growth and refinement that kept me looking beyond just what the world had to offer. Then, after facing a season of trials in my personal life, I came to the end of myself and the beginning of asking God what I was missing. God answered me, and at a certain point in my late 20s, I came upon a relationship with Jesus. And mind you, I was someone who knew very little about Christianity and even avoided it, thinking it didn't have much to offer me. Suddenly, I found myself in this awestruck place, realizing that after all that time of looking down on Christianity, it was a relationship with Christ that added a clarity and depth to my spiritual life that I hadn't found from any other source. From this place of being rooted not in religion, but in relationship, I began to be led by God's presence within me, feeling compelled to be baptized, study the Bible, and learn how to walk in faith. I read books and watched sermons from prosperity pastors and teachers discussing access to healing and peace that couldn't be found in any worldly pursuit. They talked about what having a relationship with God really meant and how our own thoughts, words, and actions were the biggest obstacles to receiving our healing from Him. I became passionate about figuring out the answer to one of the most frequently asked questions about healing. Why are some people miraculously healed by God while others are not? And how are some of those people suddenly healed after years of feeling no improvement? What was the key to transitioning from sickness to health? After looking for answers in the world and in the mainstream church, I was dissatisfied with both. On one side, I saw the inadequacy of the worldly solutions, how they often provided the same general advice that was far too superficial to result in true or lasting healing. On the other side, I noticed how many churches and Christians would talk about the big issues, such as adultery or addiction, but they rarely discussed the root cause of those issues found within us and in our unconscious or habitual behaviors and mindsets that are keeping us in separation from God and operating in direct contradiction to the healing or resolution that we're seeking. Why did we clearly understand how we were supposed to live, yet continue to operate out of alignment with that? How were Christians and non Christians alike remaining stuck in fear, depression, addictions, and sickness? With these questions stirring in my heart, I went even deeper in my own relationship with God and was blessed with many personal testimonies of my own healing and liberation from issues, things that I'll talk about more as we get into these courses. I also witnessed dozens of miraculous healings from a variety of circumstances, including within my family, from my time with clients professionally, as well as with people that I've had the pleasure of interacting with during my time as a member and leader of a prayer team for a local church. But regardless of where these miraculous healings and revelations took place, there was always one common factor. There were one or more barriers in that person's thinking or actions that stood in the way of them receiving their healing from God. And once they either transformed or resolved those barriers, their healing manifested. That included instances of sudden healing, gradual healing, and then the ability to maintain that healing over time. From there, the Connection series was developed. The ideas in the Connection series are not all new. They're rooted in the Bible, developed from professional experience and personal revelations, and a distillation of knowledge and insights derived from extensive research into biblically based teachers and prosperity preachers, all who had one thing in common. They learned to change their focus, to move out of the world's self limiting ideas about God and into what it meant to truly know Him and let that relationship change and guide everything they did. From this place of focus on God, His truth, and a relationship with Him, healing can manifest. You begin to operate in the Spirit, and true well being becomes a reality, even if the world can't explain it, measure it, or understand it. But as we all know, it doesn't always seem that easy, and you may still have some questions. How do we know when we're focused on the wrong thing, and how do we refocus? What are barriers to God, and how do you identify them and then change them? These are all great questions, and all ones that we'll answer and more before the end of this course. In the next video, I'll give more specifics on what the courses of the Connection series are and what you can expect to learn from this course and the Connection series overall.